with
Recording in
distinction
progress.
during or leading up to the new democratic dispensation, and acknowledges the indelible contribution that
of Director Generals and to clarify the roles of public service in respect of the grievance procedures. In the initial act, Section 3, subsection 7 confers strategic powers to senior officials and clarifies the distinctions between the roles of executive authorities and heads of departments, but it does not provide a clear checks and balances to ensure that there is no encroachment if there are any. What measures are taken to address the form of political interference in the HOD's administrative roles? By providing the roles of ministers and MECs as contained in Section 3, subsection 7, A to F, this bill gives some level of certainty as far as roles are concerned. Essentially, DGs are the ultimate accounting authorities in departments, and having their roles clearly clarified, their power strengthened by legislation is fundamental to the strengthening of the public service. Politicians must remain political heads, but be removed from the day-to-day administrative functions, which must be the sole responsibility of the officials appointed by the public service. Chair, the EFF knows the new roles and responsibilities of executive authorities to focus on strategic management, as it will minimize political administrative tensions as it used to exist in the public service due to the misalignment of Public Service Act and the Public Management Act. This in turn, Chair, ought to be aligned with the legislation on government public procurement to further delineate the roles of DGs in as far as procurement is concerned. Chairperson, because this government is very short-sighted, the EFF government will include provision of national framework on professionalization in the public sector, and it will fully be implemented across the public sector. That's the EFF government. We need properly qualified, competent, and corrupt-free people in the public service. This can be well-seasoned cadres, and it can be people with no previous political involvement. What is central is that it must be people who are synced with the strategic priorities of government and are prepared to respect the laws of government and the management of the public service in the country. We note Section 10, subsection B of the Principal Act provides that no person shall be appointed to the post unless he or she is fit and proper. This is an important provision, and we are in full support of employing only the best of the best in the public service. And unlike the racist DA in the DA, we believe that employing the best available talent is not in conflict within the requirements of the Employment Equity Act. For the racists, the best means, to them, the best means white. For us, the best means best of the best amongst us. And this are found in plenty amongst the Black population in this country. Chair, it would have been very prudent to amend Public Service Amendment Bill with the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill to ensure that both bills are aligned and do not leave any loophole. Public Service Commission should be the priority to administer the processes, especially in the senior and middle management levels. Therefore, the EFF supports this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The Honorable Nkosi Tabakulu.
Angibonge sihlalo. The IFP supports the Public Service Amendment Bill, as we are in full agreement with most of the bill's objectives. Under the current government, we've seen the unnecessary bloating of department, which take up to the majority of the budget and resources to have been made available by the Treasury. Therefore, we agree with the bill that will all need clarity on the role of the Public Service Commission. However, we have to take a moment and question the bill's intent to provide for the devolution of administrative powers from executive authorities to head of departments. Honorable Chair, executive authorities are placed in their positions on the assessment that they are a higher level of experience and expertise than any other position that follows below them on the hierarchical chain of command. Therefore, transferring the administrative powers from this position, one that is somehow lower ranking, should be accompanied by the necessary training. The prioritization of meritocracy is one that have proven to be lacking in our country, as South Africans have to face the incompetence of various high-ranking public officials on a daily basis. Where has this left our country? With failing state-owned enterprises due to mismanagement and corruption, there is a reason why certain administrative powers are entrusted to specific positions. Therefore, we urge that implementation of this objective is accompanied by the necessary measures to facilitate skills transfer. Furthermore, I would also like to highlight the bill's objective to provide a mechanism to deal with the recovery of overpayments of remunerations and benefits. This is a factor that has year on year to be the thorn in our country's flesh. While this objective is amicable, we've highlighted the fact that it is once again reactive instead of proactive. There should be a greater emphasis placed on ensuring that we curb fruitless and wasteful expenditure rather than having measures in place after funds have been lost. The IFP supports. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nkosazana. The Honorable Dana.
Honorable House Chair, thank you. The Zondo Commission highlighted several loopholes and shortcomings in the public service, such as improper political interference in government departments, albeit through cadre deployment or by influence from political leadership, ministers and those who work as officials, but also hold certain political positions, mainly in the governing party. This conflict of interest is as old as our democracy itself, maybe even older. But during the last few years, with reference to the 9 missing years and thereafter, up until now, this conflict of interest has become more a case of own and party interest, trumping the interests of the people of South Africa. The insertion of Section 36A into the Principal Act is therefore long overdue, because during a question and answer session in this very House, the Minister of Public Service and Administration went as far as confessing that this is indeed a very big problem in the public service, and for once we agree on something. She said, and I quote, "We have complained as citizens to say that those of the public servants who hold political office end up being masters at night and servants during the day, because they report to political leaders, yet they lead those leaders when they are outside of work, and that is where the conflict of interest is." Now, if that isn't an admission of a long-standing practice of putting party interest above the interest of the entire country by ANC politicians / public servants, I don't know what is. Voorsitter, die nuutste oorverblindery wat deur die ANC-regering aan die mense, die kiesers van Suid-Afrika gevoer word, is die van die sogenaamde professionalisering van die openbare dienste sektor en die bekamping en uitroei van bedrog en korrupsie in staatsdepartemente. Maar hulle oggend en aand stories kom nie ooreen nie. Hier is ons vandag besig met 2 wetswysigings oor openbare dienste, beide 'n druppel in die emmer, beide te min te laat, en beide wat deurgedruk word op die drempel van 'n nasionale verkiesing wat oor 92 dae plaasvind. Baie soos die nasionale gesondheidswetgewing, die Bella-wet en die verskerpte wysigingswet op gelyke indiensname. Hoe lank gaan die mense van Suid-Afrika nog toelaat dat hierdie ANC-regering hulle 'n rad voor die oë draai deur met mooi broodjies in die pylvak voor 'n verkiesing te wil lyk of hulle ewe skielik hulle werk begin doen? Recently, this government has been on a drive to professionalize the public service and to apparently clamp down on fraud and corruption, often bred in an environment of conflicted interest that is deeply rooted within local government and the public service at large, which is created by the ANC itself. But why, Honourable Chair, I ask you, why is it necessary to professionalize the public service unless this is exactly what we have been saying all along. A professional public service has been hijacked by the kleptocratic ANC and ruined by their conflicted interests, self-confessed by the minister. And that was the minister's words, not mine, to a place where they now, 30 years later, have to introduce a framework to professionalize the public service again. It was professional, you broke it. No legislation will solve this problem. Die enigste oplossing vir hierdie probleem, agbare voorsitter, is om van die kleptokratiese ANC ontslae te raak en hierdie land van voor af te herstel en bou. Ek dankie.
Thank you, Honorable Dana. The Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the ACDP believes this amendment bill is a step in the right direction in ensuring the vision of a public administration that is professional, effective, as set out in Section 195 of the Constitution. Now, we all know that the State Capture Commission identified that the primary mechanism of state capture to be the strategic positioning of particular individuals in positions of power, which was then used to gain control of public procurement and over law enforcement agencies. Corrupt politicians and officials used appointment and disciplinary processes to remove law-abiding public servants and replace them with those who are willing to be complicit in corruption. We also know that broad executive powers of appointment and removal without effective checks and balances allowed patronage considerations to pervade public administrative personnel practices. And this blurred the lines in the political administrative interface, and this is what we see as cadre deployment at its very worst. Now, we and the Commission itself also highlighted multitude examples of this abuse, and we as Parliament saw that in the previous Parliament with the ESCOM parliamentary inquiry, and if you read that report that Parliament accepted, it gives evidence of this. So this is a step in the right direction, which the ACDP supports. We believe that officials should be appointed on merit, and we also believe that they should be true servants of the people who understand the concept of stewardship of state resources, and that resources are not there to be stolen or to be misappropriated. We also welcome the prohibition on senior public servants holding political office, and this will also distinguish political and public administration roles and functions, clarifying the political administrative interface. We also have studied clause 18 of the bill, which deals with the recovery of remuneration that was wrongfully granted to an employee. And we understand that this was as a result of the Constitutional Court ruling in the case of the PSA versus Head of Department of Gauteng. And this amendment aligns the provisions with the provisions of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act and sets in place mechanisms to ensure that the rights of employees are not undermined. The ACDP will support this bill. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Swartz. Honorable Kwankwa is not participating. ATM. Good. The Honorable Sheikh Imam. The Honorable Ntule from the
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. Sorry for that.
Okay, Honorable
yeah.
Imam.
Thank you very much. The National Freedom Party notes the report that is tabled here in terms of the Public Service Amendment Bill. Now, whilst the National Freedom Party will support this, Chairperson, we don't believe that it goes far enough to deal with the challenges we face, particularly on the ground, in terms of employment and appointment of office bearers. Now, we note that, this responsibility is now going to fall under the head of department. But again, the question that arises is, who is going to appoint the head of department? And we know where there is any political interference or intervention, we will not get the people best suitable or fit for purpose to do the job. Now, the question is, Chairperson, Why can we not have an absolutely independent body, perhaps from the private sector or mixed private and public sector, to be able to take on the responsibility of identifying the most suitable candidates in every aspect and appointing them? That, we believe, is the only way you're going to get value for money and appoint those people that are fit for purpose. Now, we do know that this emanated as a result of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, the challenges that we faced in the past, and we welcome the fact that some measures are being put in place. But again, the question we're asking, why not go further than that and close those gaps once and for all, so that we have people there that are fit for purpose, but more importantly, credible. And very importantly, people that are independent and objective, which can prevent the high levels of corruption and looting that takes place. You can see the latest Auditor General's report only having dealt with 170 of the 257 municipalities. And what did they find? 5.19 billion for goods and services were not even provided for, that were paid for, but not even delivered. So we believe we need to go a little bit further than that. Now we're going to support this, but I think at some stage, Chairperson, we need to look deeper into this thing and say, we know where the problems are. And if we're sincere about dealing with these challenges, why deal with it in piecemeal? Why not go there and have a comprehensive amendment? So once and for all, we can eradicate this. It appears, Chairperson, that only the ANC is involved in cadre deployment. That is not true, Chairperson. It is not true. All political parties, let me repeat, all political parties, wherever they govern, are doing exactly the same thing. No exception. So I think the only way to do this is let's have an independent
Thank you very
body.
much, Honorable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable Ntule.
Chairperson, Minister Kivit, Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Honorable Pema Judina, members of this August House and the House at large. This bill seeks to be improving administrative systems and conditions and strengthen accountability. Public accountability is a critical principle of our democratic government. One of the key issues our public service should always uphold is what the Constitution prescribes in the Bill of Rights. Protecting human rights is critical to creating a just and equitable society. All legislation needs to comply with the Constitution. In the circumstances of an employer, an employee, various legislations prescribe the parameters of their interaction. Njengoba seke wathinta ke uminister, ngiyafisa ukugcizelela ukuthi kuyakwenzeke lapha kahulumeni kukhokheleke abantu ngendlela engahlelekile bese kufuneka leyo nkokhelo ibuyiswe. Lesi sichibiyelo ke siyakulungisa nalokho ukuthi kubanjiswane umqashi nomsebenzi ngoba sike sabona ngaphambili kubuya ezinkantolo lapho uDepartment waka Health lapha eGauteng kwakubhekene inhloko yomnyango nabasebenzi abathizeni. Ngakho ke lesi sichibiyelo sizoyilungisa leyo nto ukuthi imali kahulumente ayikhokheke angalimali umsebenzi kodwa futhi ikhokheke kahle. This amendment bill also deals with a matter arising from a constitutional court judgment. Amending this bill also fulfills a constitutional obligation And members of this House should make that a consideration when we vote for or against the bill. And we appeal to all political members, parties to really vote for this bill because it stands for all of us in this House across the party line. As political parties, we should be able to move beyond mere rejection, but hold critical engagements on the future of our nation. Kenisho nje ukuthi nani nisemsebenzini ngoba khona engicabanga ukuthi basathike kanye ibox noma kabili ukuthi bayasebenza ngoba yonke into ebekwa kule ndlu yowisomthetho bayayiphikisa. The bill seeks to clarify and strengthen the role of the Public Service Commission on grievance procedures to ensure that there are more harmonized processes in relation to internal grievances provinces. Any workplace should have a suitable and conducive working environment which enables its staff to function optimally and execute their functions to the best of their abilities. We believe that improving grievances mechanisms enhances work cooperation and ensure procedural fairness in addressing any grievance matters. We should continue to promote the spirit of Ubuntu in our society and in public service. These are the everlasting values and principles which can hold our society together. The African National Congress has always protected and promoted the rights of workers. We live in a society with high living costs and significant percentage of working people with debt. Recovering funds should be cognizant of the financial position and should have the employees' consent. Lokho ebengichaza nje ekuqaleni ukuthi uma kubanjiswene akufanele kube khona odlova omunye, akufanele kube khona osengaphansi komunye kodwa kubanjiswane kulo hulumeni. Yebo umnyango ngabe ngaphezulu asilingani. The amendment also further provides a definition amendment of executive authority in line with the section 85(1) and 2 of the Constitution that provides that the executive authority of the Republic is vested in the President and the President exercises the executive authority together with other members of the cabinet. Iyacacisa ukuthi awuphathi uphethwe. Iyaqhubeka nje awuphathi uphethwe. The proposed amendment is aligned with the policy of objective which seeks to clarify the role of the President as executive authority with respect to heads of department. Bakwethu, there is only one captain in a ship, and kule ship yalo government wethu President Ramaphosa, Cyril Ramaphosa uyena captain. The bill further makes provision for authority to be delegated by the President to cabinet matters on matters relating to the appointment and career incidents of heads of department. We support this bill as the ANC because it will strengthen the functioning of the state through delegating and clarifying particular rules which are critical for the functioning of the public service and at a strategic level, as tensions at a senior level of the public service or within workers can result in a lot of instability, which can ultimately impact of the efficiency of public service provision. Indawo yokusebenza ayisivumele sonke asisebenze sijabulile ukuze nomsebenzi wethu ube impumelelo. Ngiphinde ngifune ukuthinta lapha kule member eme lapha ikhala ngokuthi yonke into i-cadre development, yonke into i-cadre development. Ama members ka-ANC, ama activists ka-ANC now anama rights futhi angama citizens.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
Uqashwa nawo kulo hulumeni wosuku. Siyayisupporta.
AIC.
The AIC supports the bill, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Hope. PAC. Al Jamal. The Honorable T. The Honorable T. Is it Halsey? Halsey. How do I pronounce it? I hope I'm correct. Halsey. It's a maiden speech.
Okay. Honorable Chair.
Honorable members,
1990.
can I protect the member with her honorable speech? Don't intimidate her. She might run away, you know.
I don't get intimidated easily.
Welcome,
Thank you.
member.
Honorable House Chair. On the 1st of June, 1994, President Nelson Mandela signed into law the Public Service Act of 1994 to replace the public service laws prior to 1994. The intention of the Public Service Act was to provide for the organization and administration of the public service of this republic, the regulation of the conditions of employment, terms of office, discipline, retirement and discharge of members of the public service, and matters connected therein. Little did he know that within 30 years into the newly established democracy, this legacy would be invalid, replaced once again by a Broederbron culture that we now know as cadre deployment. Little did he know that cadre deployment would reverse all social and economic achievements made by leaders who were morally and ethically invested in building
Honorable
South Africa.
Honorable House, could you please take your seat? Could you please take your seat as a point of order? Honorable Janchi.
Thank you, Chair. My
Honorable members, order.
I apologize to the member on the platform, but if you're making a maiden speech, you not raise controversial issues. So we now are on salno varam if you're going to make controversial in your maiden speech. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Janchi.
Why do you allow Janji to speak, Chair?
Honorable.
From what point did he rise?
Honorable Dr. Loret, also making a point of order.
Chairperson, I would just like to say that a question of offence is a matter of opinion, and if the shoe fits, wear it.
That is not a point of order, Honorable Laureate, but we always encourage members who make their maiden speeches not to go on the offensive on the first stage. That's an encouragement. So you can go ahead, Honorable Halsa. Order, honorable members. However, it is also not in our culture to dictate how people should make their speeches. However, there's also notes that to be taken into consideration, as I'm saying. Thank you very much.
The ANC cancer of cadre deployment reached its pinnacle during the Zuma years, when the Gupta family became a deployment committee within the presidency, responsible for doling out cabinet posts and executive positions at SOEs. Where Mandela used appointment of deputy ministers to build national unity, Zuma used these positions to install party loyalists, by so doing inflating cabinet with 13 more positions. To this day, the South African economy has not recovered from the devastation brought about by the Zuma era. Yet the ANC's current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, still thinks that cadre deployment is good for this country. Prior to 2009, the public sector wage bill presented 31.
Honorable Halsa. Honorable members, please do not drown the speaker. Honorable Halsa. Honorable Halsa. Do not go on the offensive. It's not yet time. It's not yet time. Don't go on the offensive. So there will be problems if you do so. However, I would also request members not to drown the speaker again. Honorable Jose,
Honorable Chair.
there's a
thank you
point
so
of
much.
order. Please
Honorable-
order, honorable members.
Honorable members should address the president of this country accordingly, as honorable president or Mr. President.
The order is sustained. Let us address each other in respectful terms. It's in the rules. Thank you very much. Continue, Honorable Hauser.
Thank you very much. Prior to 2009, the public sector wage bill represented 31% of total government expenditure. Fast forward 15 years later, in Honorable Ramaphosa's new dawn, the bloated public sector is gobbling up even more money to pay salaries. With no money to hire essential workers, qualified doctors, nurses, and teachers have been forced to sit at home while queues at hospitals get longer and schools become overburdened as teacher-to-learner ratios are unsustainable. The ANC government should bear the full brunt of responsibility for the ineffective public service system and its negative impact on service delivery outcomes. As included in the DA's End Caler Deployment Bill in 2021, which the ANC found undesirable at the time, the Public Service Amendment Bill now includes extracts from that DA bill that makes it illegal for any person who holds office in a political party to be employed as a professional civil servant in the state. This bill, tabled in 2021, shows the DA's innovative and swift response to the outcome of the Zondo Commission. The DA is in support of this public service amendment.
Thank you very much, honorable member. Honorable members, may I have your attention? Honorable members, may I please have your attention? Please advise your members that at the maiden speech, please don't go on the offensive, because when you do so, you open yourself up for attack and a reciprocation of what you are doing. It is just a convention. It's just a request, just to make our debates more robust or more having a flow that we want. It's just that. So please. Thank you very much. The Honorable Kiwi.
I thank you, Honorable Chair, to the Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party and honorable members. Mina bahlali baseMzantsi Afrika. You know, ek raak so skaam vir 'n persoon op sy eerste dag om hier so te kom debate. Dan word hy tog die kan hy nie sê wat hy moet gesê het nie, omdat sy nou al klaar gesê is wat moet hy loop sê. But Honorable Chair, the people of South Africa will never vote in a government van Orania af nie, hulle sal dit nooit doen. Want in Orania, daar is niemand wat daarin gaan in Orania nie. Hulle sal nie vir hulle sien, hulle gaan daarin. En daar is hulle besig om ook mense te deploy. They even deploy their own brothers om tractors te bestuur. So, ons sal dit nie kan doen. Daar is niemand wat ingaan nie. If you, as julle omgegee het in Orania, oor die situasie in Suid-Afrika van werkloosheid, dan sal
Don't drown the speaker, honorable members.
Dan sal julle seker gemaak het, stel mense aan om ook daarso te gaan werk by area. Honorable Schreiber, ek is baie jammer tog, jy kom nou met hierdie issue van nee, die mense wat key positions hou aan die political party. This is something that we are addressing as the ANC, but because dit is die enigste ding wat julle mee kan hier kom staan om seker te maak, soek votes om in te gaan by die government. The ADA will never ever govern South Africa again. It can only start regering. Honorable Chair, our democratic institutions enjoy varying levels of dependence and independence. This is informed by the institution's role and how it should relate to the public, other institutions and authority at various levels of the state. This is a delicate aspect of the functioning of the state. Another critical aspect, Honorable Chair, is how people in different roles in an institution should relate, an aspect which has been in conflated and at times abused is the question of what institutes executive and administrative authority. This is so as both have as a strategic responsibility in policy development and implementation through their varying roles. If not sufficiently defined or it conflated, it creates conditions of a conflict of interest or tensions within the strategic and senior leadership of the institution, having spillover effect on the organization. It is critical that these roles are clearly defined based on their level of accountability. The heads of the department are accounting officers of the institution. They are responsible for ensuring the public administration executes its mandate through the development of plans and monitoring, implementation, and ultimately accounting to the legislature or parliament. Meanwhile, the executive is politically responsible for determining policy matters within the prescripts of the law and existing legislation. The executive authority also has leadership and oversight responsibility over the administration's execution of the mandate. This delicate relationship is critical for the success of any government department. This is necessary for a political This is necessary for the check and balance for the delineation of the powers between the executive authority and the head of the department, which has been provided to ensure accountability. The current Public Administration Act empowers the head of department by devolving certain functions from the executive authority to the heads of department. The bill provides the executive authority with powers to intervene in the event that a head of the department fails or refuses to fulfill its power or duty in terms of the act. The provision is important as currently a head of the department exercises administrative powers as delegated by an executive authority who may withdraw the said delegation in the event that the head fails or refuses to perform certain powers or duties delegated to him or her. The devolution of administrative powers from the executive authority to the head of the department means that the executive authority can no longer withdraw a delegation and therefore necessitates a process to allow the executive authority to intervene where justified. The bill further empowers the head of the department with the authority to appoint persons in a department. The devolution of this power is to ensure the alignment of the financial responsibility with human resources administrative functions, which enables and executes authority to focus on providing strategic and policy direction. Increasing the accountability of the accounting officer is critical to ensure consequence management can be effectively applied rather than a situation of confluence of roles weakening accountability. A major amendment of the bill is the limitation of party political leadership, who are officials reporting to the head of the department. The term political office has been defined to reflect the decision-making echelon of political parties. other political rights of heads of department and employees directly reporting to the head of department are unaffected by the amendment, and they remain entitled to enjoy and exercise these rights freely. The purpose of the prohibition in respect of a head of department and an employee directly reporting to the head of the department.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kiri.
Thank you.
Honorable Faber, I've got 2 monitors in front of me. That one at the podium there, and this one, well, including my phone, of course, there are 3. So I'm fine. The Honorable, the Minister of Public Service and Administration, you're welcome.
And thank you, House Chair. Honorable House Chair, allow me to first thank the honorable members of this House for supporting entirely the bill or the act as being amended through the bill. Let me, in doing so, also remind Honorable Schreiber that his 2021 of coming up with their bill is almost 3 years after the ANC and the Department of Public Service and Administration initiated the bills that we will be debating today. So it is quite dangerous for one to cut his nose to spite his own face. But I understand that desperate times require desperate measures. And I won't go deeper into that. I will leave it at that as efforts of desperation. Let me also indicate that the areas that the honorable members have raised as areas of concern, such as the administrative powers, administrative are what they are, administrative. They have nothing to do with the political head of a department, and hence the delineation. So it really shouldn't worry the honorable members. The ANC will always act in the best interest of South Africa and will always lead society. I thank you, Honorable House Chair, and appeal to the House to pass the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister of Public Service and Administration. That, honorable members, concludes the debate. Are there any objections to the Public Service Amendment Bill being read a second time? No objections, agreed to. The Secretary will read the bill a second time.
Public Service Amendment Bill.
The bill will be sent to the National Council of Provinces for concurrence. The Secretary will read the 3rd order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration on Public Administration Management Amendment Bill.
I now recognize the Honorable the Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the report be adopted as it is reflecting on order paper. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections?
Chair, please note the objection of the Democratic Alliance.
No, it's noted. No objections. Agreed to. The Secretary will read the 4th order.
Second reading debate, Public Administration Management Amendment Bill.
The Honorable the Minister of Public Service and Administration.
Asidlalis Tunyiwe, Thank you, Honorable House Chair. I'm rising now on the established protocols. Allow me, House Chair, to indicate that the deliberations and engagements that we've held and at committee stage, as well as in public consultations, have brought us to where we are with this particular act, the Public Administration Management Act. The ANC State Transformation Agenda is clearly reflected in its 54th National Conference resolutions, entails building a legitimate state that serves the interest of the overwhelming majority, which is based on a democratic constitution and a culture of human resources, which are humane and which uses public resources to better the lives of the majority, especially the poor. And subsequently, the ANC is charged the ANC government charged the National School of Government to play a critical role in capacitating employees in all spheres, which has played that role, I must admit, par excellence. The National Development Plan addresses the issue of capability and capacity of the state, as the two mean different things. Capacity deals with structures, processes, systems, and governance institutions at macro level. And the capacity deals with human resources and skills necessary for driving the state machinery. As the ANC raised, the process has been made in transforming middle management in governance, and therefore this bill seeks to address that. Honorable House Chair, we've delivered on the mandate of the ruling party as the framework for professionalization was approved by Cabinet in 2022 October. We are proud that we've not failed. The ANC has emphasized that a single and integrated public service is possible through enactment of this act. As the ANC was a bit concerned about the pace of the process, here we are today to deliver on the mandate, recognizing the constitutional imperative that each sphere of government is distinctive, interdependent, and interrelated. The bill seeks to harmonize critical aspects of the public administration within an integrated public administration system that is accompanied by a strengthened legislative governance and implementation framework. The objectives of the bill is to improve state capacity, to have the requisite know-how in terms of attributes such as skills and abilities, as well as the requisite value system to ensure fitness for purpose. It is to improve the state capability by ensuring that at a macro level, there are requisite enablers or platforms such as systems, structures, processes, governance instruments, technologies, and innovation to assist the people to deliver on their mandates in driving the machinery of the state. The bill seeks to amend the Public Administration Management Act to provide for the transfer and secondment of employees from local government to public service and vice versa, and to enable the mobility of skills where they are needed, whether in a municipality, provincial, or national government, and to ensure the highest ethical standards of public servants by prohibiting employees conducting business with the organs of state to the extent that it is a criminal offense for employees to do so, and prohibiting employees participating in supply chain processes from immediately being employed by successful service providers. We're reconfiguring the National School of Government to provide education, training, and development to all spheres of government, including public entities, to meet the needs of specific public servants, to provide for the removal of unjustified disparities in conditions of service of senior personnel across the public administration, and to provide for better coordination of the determination of conditions of service for all employees in the public administration. Honorable members, this bill is a critical step in furtherance of ensuring better coordination and service delivery across all institutions of the state. And again, with the Public Service Amendment Bill, this bill is a necessary step to ensure that the public administration is professionalized, efficient, responsive to the needs of the people of South Africa, and to deliver a professional, capable developmental state. Once again, Honorable House Chair, let me conclude by thanking the members of the Portfolio Committee for the work they've done, led by our able chair, Honorable Mkweba.
Thank you very much,
Urge
Honorable
the House to
Minister.
support the bill.
Sure. The Honorable Mkweba.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Honorable members, the Public Administration Management Bill was introduced on the 5th of May, 2023. On the 7th of June, the Portfolio Committee started its process and undertook an intensive public participation process with multiple oral submissions from various organizations in labor, academia, and the public. Their inputs have enriched the committee's process. The department has also responded to public submissions, and the Portfolio Committee was satisfied with the clarity provided. Honorable members, the public administration must cope with the constant changes affecting today's society and ensure citizens' well-being. Consequently, public institutions must strengthen their capacity to manage the unforeseen, namely to become resilient to different shocks and changing conditions. Honorable members, the professionalization of public service is a priority of the African National Congress government to improve the state's capability. Our commitment to creating a better life requires a public service which places the interest of the people at the center of its program. The African National Congress believes that a single public administration is critical to use the state resources adequately and to ensure the three spheres of government function in a reinforcing manner. The district development model is a mechanism to enhance this intergovernmental relation to ensure the government ultimately develops regional plans which concentrate funds to meet local social and economic needs. Honorable members, making the public administration and governments more responsive to the needs of citizens is one of the most important pillars of the ANC-led government. The sixth administration prioritized building a capable, ethical, and developmental state as priority number one. We need more responsive and accountable public administration within the framework of democratic governance. The role of
Excuse me, Honorable Mkweba. ICT could help Honorable May with his gadget to mute. Sorry.
House Chair, the role of public administration in governance is a continuing topic for discussion and debate. As public administration evolves, there are gaps in policy implementation and of norms and standards across the public sector. The sixth government is in gear to build a professional public administration. Building a capable, ethical, professional, and developmental states begins with ensuring that the public administration machinery, norms, and standards are aligned and strengthened to prevent any loopholes in the system. In 2014, the President signed the Public Administration Management Bill into law. Over the past 10 years, the government has been implementing the law, such as prohibiting public servants from doing business with the state. Through the oversight over the past years, the provision of public servants from doing business with the state was not yielding the intended results. More public servants continued to conduct business with other organs of the state. Honorable members, in strengthening the existing gaps in the Act, the ANC-led government, through the Public Administration Management Amendment Bill, reviewed certain sections such as the prohibition of public servants from doing business with the organ of states. This means that public servants will be prohibited from doing business with any organ of the state. The bill further aims to remove employment disparities across the public administration and to provide for the mandating process for collective bargaining in the public administration. The legislative reforms before the August House would assist the government in uprooting any form of maladministration in the public administration. Building a well-coordinated public administration begins with strengthening the laws through uniformity. And the Public Administration Management Amendment Bill is structured in a way that local government powers are not infringed. Honorable members, the bill also establishes the National School of Government as a national department to provide education and training to employees in all spheres of government, include municipalities and public entities. House Chair, to manage the secondment of employees, the bill provides that secondments contemplated in Section 6 of the Principal Act should occur only where it is operationally justified. This ensures that secondments do not result in deficiencies being created, which hamper service delivery within institution. This is to prevent the abuse of secondment and ensure such decisions do not impact the effective functioning of the departments. The bill further makes provision for transfers to ensure the mobility of employees across the spheres of government to where human resource deficiencies exist or operational requirements necessitate. This will enhance good governance and enable transferability of skills and resources where required. This is in line with the intention of the ANC to strengthen local government in the main by seconding officials and scarce skills. Adopting this bill will provide more levers for the government to strengthen service provision. We can confidently state that some of the problems impacting local government or state organs without requisite skills will be supported appropriately through secondments and transfers. Over the past 5 years, we have observed the progress of the government and we welcome the decisive measures to reform the public service through legislative amendments. This is a sign of a government at work responding to the problem impacting the government. We support the Public Administration Management. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable Schreiber on the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Public Administration Management Amendment Bill is a dangerous piece of legislation. Cloaked in seemingly technical amendments, the main implications of this bill are consequential. While some of the provisions do not appear problematic, such as the measures against employees doing business with the state, the previous ANC speaker just admitted that the department has previously failed completely to implement the existing ban on doing business with the state. But more seriously, the bill is entirely undermined by the fact that it amounts to a power grab by the national government against the autonomous sphere of local government. The Constitution makes it clear that municipalities are responsible for managing their own structure and administration. This bill is in clear conflict with that constitutional provision. It seeks to redefine the national government's mandate to incorporate all organs of state, including municipalities. Using this sleight of hand, the bill then unlawfully gives the National Department of Public Service and Administration control over elements of the structure and administration of municipalities. It gives the national government powers to interfere in the transfer of employees affecting municipalities. It extends the power of the national government over remuneration matters affecting municipalities. And it opens the door for future amendments, which we know are on the way, to increase the national government's control over municipalities. The same power grab that contaminates this bill is also contained in the draft Public Service Commission Amendment Bill. It is therefore clear that the ANC has embarked on a renewed drive to choke DA-led municipalities which are the only local governments in this country that consistently over years have worked for the people. The DA will not stand idly by while the ANC seeks to execute a silent coup against the few functional municipalities that remain. During the public participation process on this bill, representatives from various local governments pointed out the inherent unconstitutionality. As usual, the ANC ignored such good faith warnings in its blind ideological drive for a so-called single public service. The ANC really should go and read the Constitution again to see that there exists no provision allowing the national government to implement a single public service that grabs power away from provincial and local governments. Instead, our Constitution deliberately provides for three distinct and equal spheres of government that can serve as checks and balances on each other. This bill is yet another expression of the fundamental difference between the ANC and the DA. As the ANC's own cadre deployment policy puts it, and I quote, "The ANC's goal is to seize control over all levers of power," end quote. Its defining drive is to centralize, to capture the state, and to subvert South Africa to serve only the ANC's interests. In contrast, the DA is a party committed to federalism and the devolution of power to the people. This principle is powerfully expressed in the DA-led Western Cape's Provincial Powers Bill, which encapsulates our commitment to bring government closer to the people it must serve. On the 29th of May, the voters of South Africa have the opportunity to reject centralization built on state capture and cadre deployment in favor of DA good governance. The DA rejects the Public Administration Management Amendment Bill, and we call on the local government sphere to mobilize for a constitutional challenge against this power grab against municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable Komane. Over to you, ma'am.
Chairperson, one of the economic freedom fighters' 7 non-negotiable cardinal pillars is for an open and accountable government. The public service is a central component of open and accountable government, and the way public servants conduct themselves is a fundamental factor enabling open and accountable government. Amongst other things, this means that public servants must be preoccupied in the main with providing services to the public and not lining up for their own pockets. This bill seeks to strengthen the legislative prohibition on having public servants doing business with the state. We fully support this provision. People must decide if they want to be public servants or business people. However, this must be followed by making sure that there are enough incentives to attract the best talent to the public service and keep them there. This provision ought to have gone further, though, to ensure that public servants don't do private business with companies that do business with the state, because failure to do this will provide an opportunity for unscrupulous public servants to find other means of fronting to continue doing business with the state. Chairperson, the EFF also supports the removal of employment disparities between the various spheres of the state. This, we believe, would make the best talent the country has available to work across all levels of government. We now know that local government spheres is deeply affected by lack of properly qualified and trained individuals, leaving corrupt political heads to do as they please in municipalities, leading to collapse in the service delivery, like in Rustenburg in the Northwest. Chairperson, while there are these different spheres of government, the EFF believes that public service is one and ought to be treated the same as in far as making the best available skills there for all of our people. In this regard, Chair, we support the provision that seeks to make the transfer of staff across departments and across the different spheres of government to plug identified skills gaps. This is a crucial legislative intervention and will provide to the secondment of staff from one department to the other and from one sphere of government to the other. However, Chairperson, we are uneasy with the powers given to the managers to decide on these transfers. We know how petty some government officials may be, and that they may use this provision to get rid of people they do not like in their departments. The secondment of any official from one department to the other, Chair, or from one sphere of government to the other must only be effected after a thorough consultation process has been undertaken. Chairperson, this must include a properly agreed upon basket of support of the employee to be transferred. And this includes accommodation and incentives such as transfer which will be moving the employees as far from their home and from their primary areas of residence. Chair, as it stands, the bill does not address the refusal of employees to consent a secondment, which may lead to unpredictable consequences or may also lead to abuse of power by senior management. This gives too much powers to management without even considering the factors such as relocation and others. Having said that, Chair, other than this, the EFF supports this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Nkosi Kebekhulu.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I'd like to acknowledge the attempts by this bill to eradicate corruption and ensure transparency within the public service. However, we share the concerns raised by the various organizations who submitted written and oral inputs regarding the potential gaps in the proposed legislation. The proposed amendment addresses the issue of public servants conducting business with the state, amongst other things. While the intention are commendable, the IFP agrees with the experts who believe that these amendments shall fall in certain critical aspects. Clause 5 of this bill attempts to clarify definitions and provisions related to the prohibition of employees conducting business with an organ of state. The concerns raised by the stakeholders shed light on the fact that the legislation may not adequately cover situations where employees, although not directors, are the ultimate beneficiaries of companies receiving tenders from the government. In particular, we endorse the proposal, to expand the amendments to explicitly state the employees who are not only directors, but also beneficial owners of companies should be prohibited from doing business with the state. Such a provision, accompanied by criminal consequences and disciplinary measures, is crucial to closing existing gaps and ensure the effective prevention of corruption within the public administration. Moreover, we acknowledge the concerns raised by the Public Affairs Research Institute regarding quote-unquote silent partners and their indirect benefits from business dealings with the state. We support the proposal to align Section 8 with the Public Procurement Bill, disallowing individuals related to any employee, including spouses, from participating in procurement bids within the same institution where their relatives serve. This step is essential in harmonizing legislation and addressing potential avenues for corruption. The revelation in the 2020 April indicating that over 1,000 government employees were conducting business with the state highlight the urgency of robust legislation. We must continue to strengthen our legal frameworks to support these endeavors. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable Dana.
House Chair, on Thursday, 9 March 2017, the Portfolio Committees for Public Service and Administration, as well as Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation of the 5th Parliament, issued a statement welcoming the push by government's Governance and Administration Cluster to fully implement the then revised Code of Conduct for Public Service Employees, which came into effect on 1 August 2016. The most important feature of this code of conduct was the prohibition of public servants doing business with the state. By prohibiting public servants from doing any form of business with state organs, any state organs, whether in their own capacity as individuals or through companies in which they are directors. This was in 2016. Fast forward to 9 years later, where today we have to amend legislation in order to prohibit this practice because certain public servants either don't adhere to codes of conduct or management in the public service does not believe in or are unable to properly implement consequence management for contravention of rules, regulations, principles of good business practice or codes of conduct. Honorable Chair, you cannot legislate good work ethic. We see that on our right-hand side. You appoint good work ethic through a merit-based appointment system. That means that when candidates for positions in public service are considered, a proven track record of good work ethic, experience and relevant qualifications as opposed to political affiliation will be a good indication of the quality of an appointee. And you ensure good institutional work ethic by consistently implementing strict and fair consequence management, which is also a foreign concept for those on my right-hand side. Then we won't have to make or amend laws to prevent our public servants from effectively stealing from the people of our country. Nietemin, hier is ons nou. Op 'n plek waar ons wette moet maak om goeie werksetiek en eerlikheid af te dwing, met geen waarborg dat dit sal werk nie. Want eerstens kan eerlikheid nie afgedwing word deur middel van wetgewing nie, en tweedens is hierdie regering nie bekend vir effektiewe, eerlike regering of behoorlike gevolgebestuur nie. Waarmee hierdie regering wel goed is die skep van skuiwergate, soos die skuiwergat in hierdie wetgewing, wat nie sekondêre begunstiging uit staatsbesigheid verhoed nie. Soos byvoorbeeld dat artikel 8 nie behoorlik voorsiening maak vir werknemers van die staat wie nie noodwendig direkteure van maatskappye is nie, maar steeds baat uit die winste van sodanige maatskappye. Daar word ook geen melding van sogenaamde silent partners gemaak nie. Altyd 'n skuiwergat, altyd 'n agterdeur, altyd 'n geleentheid om geld te maak uit die staatskas. Het sy vir persoonlike of partytjie, en dit is mos nou amper verkiesing. Voorsitter, Suid-Afrika het 42 staatsdepartemente, waarvan die oorgrootste meerderheid nie behoorlik funksioneer nie. By substituting Section 11 of the Principal Act with Section 9 of the Amendment Act, the National School of Government is constituted as a national department to enhance the quality, extent and impact of institutions through training in order to achieve the progressive realization of a capable public administration that is development orientated. Nog mooi broodjies. Chairperson, no amount of training or development will be enough to transform this current public service into one based on good governance and proper work ethic. Yes, there are those who will benefit from it. But before we clean up this current public service and this government, we will not achieve anything through legislation. The ultimate solution will be to get rid of the ANC so we can rebuild our country. I thank you.
Thank you. I now recognize Honorable UTM. Honorable ATM. Honorable Good. Honorable Sheikh Imam on virtual platform. We shall proceed.
Sorry, Chairperson, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Honorable member.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. The National Freedom Party notes the Public Administration Amendment Bill before us here. Now, there are two ways of looking at it. I know some of my colleagues are talking about the power that will be shifted from particular local government to national level. Now, one may argue that perhaps this is to take total control of that. On the other hand, if you look at the other side of the coin, there is no doubt about it that local government to a very large extent have failed the people, being the heartbeat of the delivery of services, with the high levels of corruption, the lack of capacity. If you saw a report not long ago of the number of office bearers in KwaZulu-Natal, not forgetting politicians and their standard of education, and yet you are expected them to deal with integrated development plans and annual performance. You know, it's really almost impossible to deliver the kind and quality of services if the people behind the desk themselves are not well equipped. Now, I think to a very large extent, the responsibility of appointments, employment, ensuring that particularly employees are not doing business with the state, the local government has to a very large extent failed on that. And I think it is important that we have a structure at national level to take away some of these responsibilities. In fact, we would go one step further to say maybe we at some stage need to consider whether we need a 3-tier government, which is as good as a 4-tier government, with the introduction of the district development model. Perhaps we only need a 2-tier government, and we'll be saving a lot of money in this country, and then just put stringent measures in place to ensure that people that are employed have the capacity, the capability, the skills, and they fit for purpose, and not forgetting, of course, there's consequence management for those who fail. So I think to some extent, Chairperson, that this is a good bill if it is used in the correct manner to be able to enhance the quality of representation that we have in terms of administration, particularly at local and provincial level. But also very importantly, which does not fall within the ambit of this particular bill, is something we need to consider again, Chairperson, is what about the public representatives also that we are giving such senior positions to mayors, deputy mayors, speakers? Some of them don't have the qualification or the education or the skills or the integrity to be able to fulfill this responsibility. Maybe at some stage we need to start looking at that as well, so that we have people that can provide the necessary quality that is required in order to deliver services to the people. Now, on the issue particularly of doing business with the state, Chairperson, I can tell you, it's either you're ethical or you're not. There are those that will find every other way to beat the system.
Thank you, Honorable Sheikh Imam. Your time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you. I now recognize Honorable Maneli.
House Chair, Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, Honorable Members. House Chairperson, one of the key tenets of building a capable developmental state that can intervene in the market and deliver social and economic development is people. Human capabilities are a central requirement. Without the public servant with the technical capability, experience, and skills required to execute functions and realize the objectives of policies of planning to fail. Without the necessary skills in public service implementation, weakness arises. One of the problems has been the inability of state organs located in rural areas not attracting skills due to distance from cities, which impact the ability of such organs of state to attract and retain skilled public officials. The government's fear impacted by this realities local government municipalities in rural and arid locations. This impacts their ability to generate revenue to attract particular skills. House Chair, despite these constraints, over the last 30 years, our government has developed skills within the public service. With many Black public officials having high levels of educational qualification and experience, this is a significant milestone. We should also recognize the impact of outsourcing the provision of social services, which has resulted in the state's lack of capability in key technical areas required for effective policy implementation and economic development. It is for this reason that the ANC is focusing on building state capabilities to implement policies and provide social and economic services. Honorable members, we welcome this bill because it advances efforts to entrench a meritocratic culture within the public service. Meritocracy is a critical aspect to ensure that we use the skills of our nation for our progress. The introduction of the professionalization framework is critical to place systems which will support a learning and developmental culture within the public service. It will also enable the deployment and redeployment of skills to various to various spheres of government to strengthen governance and policy implementation. The enabling ability of the professionalization framework will enable the government to have the ability to attract and retain technical skills by enabling a work environment which supports the development and career within the public service. The National School of Governments is one institution which is making an immense contribution in providing access to training and development opportunities for public servants, including senior and executive members. This effort should be channeled to harness innovation within the public service to improve service provision and execution of the constitutional mandate of the state institution. House Chair, the reality is that we operate in a capitalist economy, which has commodified aspects of human existence. The state, therefore, also attracts labor from the market. This means the public service has to compete with the private sector for skills, and state institutions also compete for skills within the public service. The bill addresses the challenge of attracting skills that are scarce in the market through enabling varying remuneration packages in public service. This will enable the public service to have a just and differentiated system that takes into account various factors such as scarcity of skill. House Chairperson, the professionalization framework also seeks to embed succession planning in the public service. This will enable stability in the public service and promote professional development. The department's effort in supporting the public service professional association are also commendable. The public service should become an employer of choice, and our citizens should find it an honor to be a public service. The state's identity and legitimacy are critical to develop a culture of Batupi. Honorable members, the ANC has identified local government challenges as areas which require multiple intervention. We should also include national intervention to ensure basic service provision are sustained and developed in communities. The bill has an object to enable the deployment of officials across public service in order to optimize the state's capacity and capability in various changing conditions which require the deployment or transfer of officials to ensure or to another sphere of government without losing their remuneration condition. Contrary to what Honorable Schreiber has just implied here, there is no power grab. House Chairperson, this is an important intervention, and government should encourage public servants in urban areas to also consider working in rural areas as the supply of skill is high in urban areas, whilst also it is low for rural areas. Honorable members, we are confident that with the correct vision and commitment to implement, we can transform our public service to espouse the features of a developmental state. House Chairperson, abantu abaninzi khange bacinga uba umhlolo owenzekileyo kule veki phela uzakwenzeka. Bebese bebhalile ukuba i-ANC ifile, obituary ANC ibibhaliwe, kodwa ke wenzekile umhlolo, siye sabona iMabhida igcwele, kwagcwala neDurban yonke. Elethu ke sithi hayi khanibe niqhubekeka niphupha. Thina siyi-ANC siyabuya, khabe niphupha. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, I'm going to name you, and for a second time, you leave the room. Thank you very much. Honorable AIC. Honorable Cope. Honorable PAC. Honorable Al-Jama.
Honorable Chair.
1 second, Honorable PAC. I've heard a voice.
I said I'm not debating, Honorable Chair.
Enkosi, Honorable Member. Honorable Al-Jama. Honorable Halson. Honorable members, as you approach the podium from both sides, my left and my right, please use these seats my rights, use this one, the left one. Thank you very much. No, you may proceed.
Thank you. Honorable House Chair, the Public Administration Management Act came into existence in the throes of the Zuma-Ramaphosa cadre deployment era. 2014 was the time wherein South Africa found itself deep within state capture, something that continues to haunt public administration to this day. Despite the ANC trying its best to convince the nation that the Zondo Commission has exercised all evil. In actual fact, what the Zondo Commission found was that it's still present today is that the ANC and Parliament continue to protect their own, no matter the cost or controversy. The ANC majority continues to stall implementing recommendations of the Zondo Commission and has delayed where they can, strengthening policy to root out corruption, cadre deployment, and state capture. In the case of the Public Administration Management Bill, there are major flaws, some of which in fact widen the loopholes to state capture and corruption. One case in point, an amendment in Section 8 of the Act that will give power to the minister to allow an employee of the state to do business with the state under certain circumstances. Employees can charge for work done as long as they're not making a profit. While this provision appears harmless, it actually opens doors for municipalities to become the ANC's personal card machines. In addition, this is an addition that fits right into the ANC's state capture plans. This will make it even easier to siphon funds from states by sidestepping the tedious tender processes. The NSG in its legacy report could not substantiate any lasting or effective impacts that the school has made at present, with evaluation of effectiveness producing statements like, the impact evaluation displayed that some of the participants could apply the knowledge acquired after training, or departments that sent the correct target groups were more likely to observe immediate changes. None of those statements are interventions that show that there was action. They are vague and not substantive at all. It is on this basis that we recommend that the NSG start playing its part in the fight against corruption, fraud, and other forms of misconduct in the public service by offering a wider range of courses or programs which are intended to entrench and inculcate a culture of accountability, professionalism, ethics, and morality in the public service, and also capacitate and empower senior managers to effectively address and deal decisively with acts of corruption, fraud, and other forms of misconduct in the public service. The DA will not support this amendment bill.
Thank you. I now recognize Honorable Ntuli. Honorable Ntuli.
Derek. Chairperson, Minister Kivit, Deputy Minister Kenny, Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Honorable Pemi Castellina Majordina, members of this august House and the House at large. This amendment bill is said to be ensuring equity in the public service and administrative justice and combating corruption. Our public service should protect the interests of the workers, the public, and the state, constituting our national sovereignty. Cooperative governance is therefore in this department a fundamental element of building a vibrant democratic state that considers the condition of its people and history. The Public Administration Management Amendment Bill introduces new provisions to remove and eliminate unfair disparities in remuneration and conditions of service in the public sector, including public entities, and to provide for coordinated mandating processes for the determination of remuneration and conditions of service. The bill provides for the minister, after consultation with the relevant minister and subject to the processing of the regulations, to prescribe one, upper limits of the remuneration and conditions of service for certain categories of employees who do not fall within scope of the relevant bargaining council. And 2, steps to remove unjustifiable disparities amongst employees in the public administration, provided that such steps must not reduce the salary of an employee unless provided for in an act of parliament or collective agreement. This provision will protect public servants from being placed in vulnerable conditions due to reduction income. The amendment establishes a committee of ministers which must, in determining and mandate, take into account affordability and any other factor prescribed by the minister in consultation with the Minister of Finance. This is critical to ensure all collective bargaining matters consider the country's fiscal position to ensure financial sustainability while protecting the rights of workers and remunerating them accordingly. A balance in the process is required to ensure the fiscal allocation supports the holistic objectives of government policy. These provisions aim to create better integration and coordination between the various institutions to remove unjustifiable disparities without eroding existing collective bargaining structures and processes or undermining the prescripts governing employees in the various institutions. Uyabona ke lesi sichibiyelo siphinde sithinte kabanzi udaba lwenkohlakalo nohwaphulizo oludalwa amazambane abolile azifihle ku-public service kanye nezimpisi ezigqoke izikhumba zezimvu. Lesi sichibiyelo sigcizelela ukuba bangaphosi isinkwa ngenhla bese begijima beyosithatha ngenzansi sesivokomele. Sithi ke uma kade ungumsebenzi kulezi zinhlaka kodwa usushiyile ake uthi gozololo okungenani 12 months of cooling period kulabo basebenzi abathinteka kwi-procurement of services and for service providers. Uthi bangatholakali sebegxuma beyosebenza ngaphansi kwabo laba kade bebanikeze imisebenzi kade kuyibo futhi ababanikile umsebenzi loyo. Lokho kuyoba icala elibovu elinenhlawulo yesigidi samarandi. Uhulumeni ka-ANC ulwa nenkohlakalo, ulwa ne-corruption, uyiqonda ngqo. Azishe wonke umuntu nansi amendment yokukhipha amazambane abolile. Ikhumule izikhumba zezimvu eyimpisini zisale enqunu siyibone ngosi. Abantu abangayisupport le amendment bill yibona bahamba ne-corruption isikhekelembayo. Yabona ke le amendment bill iphethe i-professionalization ngesandla. Nansi i-professionalization ilethwa uhulumeni ka-ANC, ayilethwa ho-shadow minister. Iza ekhanyeni, iza ibonwa yinombani. This is a critical intervention to address situation of a conflict of interest which can arise in procurement processes. This cooling off period will discourage public servants from acts of fraud and corruption. This, honorable members, is just one of the 6 administration's interventions in addressing the corruption problems. Sengishilo ngathi uhulumeni ka-ANC uyiqonda ngqo. Corruption is not a government created problem, but it's not created by government, but a societal problem, which requires societal effort
Thank
to
you, honorable
combat.
member. Your time is
Sonke.
up. Thank you,
Asibela.
thank you, honorable
But
member.
the government,
Honorable member,
the
your time is
ANC
up.
support the amendment.
I now recognize the Honorable Minister of Public Service and Administration. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, House Chair. And honorable members, I rise on established protocol already. Let me start with a painful fact. A painful fact which has been displayed by the Honorable Schreiber, that actually the Democratic Alliance is concerned with power than dealing with the areas that the whole bill is dealing with: anti-corruption drive, good management practices, and all. Their main concern is power grab. And I still have to see this good governance in Swan. My half of my life I stayed there. But let me appreciate the support from the honorable members of the EFF. Let me also appreciate the support from in fact, most honorable members have just raised some areas of concern, which the EFF has raised the issue of consultation before the transfer, which is a normal course in government. Nobody would be forced to be transferred. It's not permitted. But also, Honorable Bebekulu to say prohibition must cover all employees. I mean, that's true, and that's what we're trying to do by enacting this to cover local government. It is quite worrisome indeed, and truly this issue of the choking the DA-run municipalities. For good gracious, this is a law that is going to cover the rest of the country. We can't waste 5 years coming up with a piece of legislation just to
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The
target
time
a
is
few.
up.
But I do want to appeal
Thank
to
you.
members to support the bill, and I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, that concludes the debate. Are there, honorable members, are there any objections to the public administration management bill being read second time? DA?
Chair, please note the objection of the Democratic Alliance.
The objection shall be recorded
And the
accordingly.
objection of the FF plus, please, Chair.
And the
Shall be-
ACDP, thanks.
Shall be. Thank you very much. Since there are no objections other than those ones will be recorded, the secretary will read the bill for the second time.
Public Administration Management Amendment Bill.
Thank you. The bill will be sent to National Council of Provinces for concurrency. The secretary will read the fifth order of the day.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation on Statistics Amendment Bill.
I now recognize the Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Thank you, House Chair. I move that the report be adopted by the House. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections?
No.
DA?
Please note the objection of the Democratic Alliance.
And the objection of the FF Plus. Thank you. That shall be noted. No objections. However, we will now allow, let me just check 1 second. Honourable members, there are no objections other than the. Thank you. Now, the bill, there are no objections. The bill is agreed to. We'll note the objection of the D and FF Plus. The secretary will read the 6th order of the day. Yes, it's the report, but the bill, then the secretary will read the 6th order of the day.
Second reading debate, Statistics Amendment Bill.
Thank you. I now recognize the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Morolo. Over to you, sir.
Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Chief Whip and Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Ministers and Deputy Ministers here and on the visual platform, Honorable Members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Bagai Chudumela. I get that go lebogola tiro e komiti ya kokoano theo molao e dirileng go fitlha fa. Gompieno re amogela pegelo ya tiro e le go tlhomamisa dikatlanegiso tsa yone. SSA is one of the most preeminent national statistics organization in the world due to the robust nature of our data collection methods in keeping with international convention. However, this pole position role needs to be enhanced for the needs of South Africa, the world, and humanity as a whole. Honorable House Chairperson, in its 2023-2024 work program, Stats SA boldly confirms that statistics are a vital source of evidence as they provide objective and numerical data on important aspects of the country, including economic growth, job creation, characteristics of the population, social living conditions, health, education, and crime, to mention just a few. This indicates how Stats SA is preparing and is prepared to achieve in its maturity and coordinating the maturity of our national statistics system. A matured national statistics system is far more important to achieve the principal task of the collection, analysis, and dissemination of objective and numerical data on important aspects of the country. Honorable House Chairperson, it is with these in mind that the Statistics Amendment Bill seeks to amend Statistics Act 6 of 1999 with a main emphasis on strengthening statistical coordination in the country. The amendment bill makes provision for the development and implementation of the national statistics system. It further provides for the establishment of statistics units within organs of state and the formulation of national strategy for the development of statistics. This responsibility will be charged to the Statistician General and will primarily set the statistical coordination system of the Republic. The state organs will benefit from the methodology used for statistical collection and interpretation so that the administrative data can be upgraded to the status of official statistics when necessary. The national strategy for the development of statistics will, amongst others, achieve an enhanced coordination of the collection, analysis, and dissemination of objectives and numerical data on important aspects of the country and enhance the capacity of state organs. Honorable House Chairperson, we note that there is some sense of consternation with regard to clause 9, where we propose the deletion of other than private dwelling, which would mean the amendment of section 15 of Act number 6 of 1999, which currently reads as follows. For the purpose of making inquiries or observations necessary for achieving the purpose of this act, the Statistician General or any other officer of Statistics South Africa authorized by him or her may enter on any land or premises other than a private dwelling of any individual organ of state, business, or other organization and inspect anything thereon or therein. However, there's an important reason for Stats SA to access the premises of individuals. Data collection in the social statistics program primarily includes interviews with members of the households in their natural setting to also observe for data triangulation. Honorable members, we are also aware of the safety concerns that many in our society have in relation to such access to their private property. Measures will consequently be put in place to provide for the safety of data collectors and private property owners. Some of these measures have already been implemented through various sensors in the past years. Honorable House Chairperson, in summary, Stats SA needs to access premises to enable identification of structures and determine purposes for use of such in order to maintain an up-to-date geospatial information frame. More importantly, lack of access to private dwellings may result in unreliable estimates, as Stats SA will not have a complete picture of the total number of dwellings on the ground. Jaaka re kaile, Stats SA se a gola, ditlhoko tsa rona tsa dipalopalo di a gola, ebile tsamaiso ya go kokoanya go sekaseka le go phatlhalatsa dipalopalo tse mo Aforika Borwa go tshwanetse go dira jalo go ya ka togamaano ya naga. Ka jalo, molao ono o maatlafatsa tiro ya mmala batho ka karetso gore a kgone go fitlhelela ditlhoko tsa rona tsa dipalopalo mo maphateng otlhe a merero ya leago la ikonomi. A ke helele gone ha, ke a leboga.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Gyanji. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, House Chair, honorable members. The Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation introduced the State South Africa Amendment Bill on 13 October 2023. As a portfolio committee, we have prioritized processing this important bill. The object of this bill seeks to improve the capacity and capability of State South Africa in executing its mandate. It also helps to collect, produce, and disseminate official stats and other statistics. This is a critical mandate to advance any development in society. It is critical to enhance innovation and research in the economy. In essence, it improves scientific decision-making, which enhances human life and development. The bill the House is considering seeks to enhance the role of the Statistician General in coordinating the statistics ecosystem. As a portfolio committee, we have held robust discussions on various contentious matters in the bill.
Honorable, one minute, Honorable Gyanji. Honorable Lindelwa, kindly mute yourself, please. You may proceed, Honorable Gyanji.
And we have concluded those deliberations with a decision by the committee to support the bill as it transforms our statistics ecosystem. We did receive inputs from public participation.
Honorable Gabriel, ICT, just mute all honorable members from virtual platform because I think they're entertaining themselves now. Please, you may proceed, Honorable Gyanji.
We did receive inputs from public participation process, mainly from South African Reserve Bank, which requested an inclusion that should enable it to access data. But we agree that current legislation frameworks enable the South African Reserve Bank to access data without mentioning it by name. The information regulator also made a submission which enhanced the committee's consideration of the aspect the South African Reserve Bank has requested, which also concurred with the fact that the request of the South African Reserve Bank is covered in the current parameters of the bill. The bill before the House is critical as it empowers Statistics South Africa to develop and implement a national statistics system and a national strategy, which will enable Statistician General to have a comprehensive system which enables South Africa to harvest, disseminate data from and to the broadest sections possible. In a period of big data and artificial intelligence, enhancing coordination and collaboration amongst data producers and data users is critical to ensure that Stats SA is in a position of useful data which focuses on various sectors and facets of human existence. Harnessing this collaboration will ensure that a conducive environment for information sharing is enabled, which will impact on the quality of statistics produced by Stats SA and enhance decision-making. Honorable members, over the sixth parliament, we have made observations in our oversight over the executive regarding the quality of information reported in measuring the performance of state organs. Many of the state organs focus on measuring outputs without measuring outcomes. We've called on to the executive to improve its measurements of performance through the development of outcome indicators. This requires a statewide reform to adapt planning and reporting tools to enable quality indicators and statistical reporting. We've made an observation on the quality of spending in government and thus require an impact focus to advance the social and economic transformation of society. The bill requires state organs to have statistical units which will enhance government performance reporting and other statistical reports in various sectors. This will enhance the quality of data and the scientific basis of decision-making. We believe this bill will also enhance the oversight functions of Parliament and public accountability as the quality of performance reporting is enhanced. The bill further creates parameters for the minister to develop regulations to make decisions on the prioritization of certain states to be designated as official by the Statistician General. This will enable strategic coordination of state institutions to support the developmental objectives of the country. This is critical to also ensure the work of Stats SA supports government planning and measuring key indicators of the NDP and the medium-term strategic framework, as well as various priority sector industries. Stats SA, therefore, is a national asset to propel our path to development. Statistics are critical and significant for the government for planning, policy formulation, monitoring, evaluation, which are critical to enable agile interventions to ensure policy implementation. We disagree with the notion of disempowering States SA by not supporting this bill and weakening it to undertake its function and access as many South Africans as possible in their various dwellings to ensure we improve our national data. In other words, we don't want another Western Cape issue, as we would have recent the Census 2022, where people can't go into this house. There are issues of race, and therefore there's undercounting. We want to approve this and never go back to that. Stats South Africa has been an effective state institution which has respected human rights and worked with law enforcement agencies to ensure its data collection does not make citizens vulnerable to crime. Amendment of clause 9 on the field workers accessing individuals is important and should be viewed in the interest of the entity's mandate. And we should also ensure where security concerns arise, collaboration with law enforcement agencies is required. The committee adopted the bill, and we note the reservation of some of the opposition parties, including the DA that objected to this and the EFF that reserved this position. And we therefore, I speak for the committee, if you care to listen. I'm the chairperson of the committee and I speak for the committee. And therefore it becomes very important. It becomes very important because our key task as parliamentarian is creating legislation. We're already far advanced as this sixth administration and we're adding to that. That's our mandate. And therefore, this bill as a committee, City must and agree to this bill so that we ensure proper planning and monitoring. And go to
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Graham.
Thank you, Chairperson. At first glance, the Statistics Amendment Bill appears to be a rather benign piece of legislation. The long title provides that the bill seeks to amend the Statistics Act through, inter alia, additional definitions, provisions on the power of the Statistician General, and the development of a national statistics system to create an environment for integrated data gathering and quality statistics for data producers and users. What could go wrong? Nestled amongst the new definitions and technical clauses is an amendment under the title Entry on and Inspection of Premises. The Principal Act provides the Statistician General or anyone working on their behalf permission to enter any land or premises other than a private dwelling and inspect anything therein and thereon. This provides an element of protection to landowners and individuals from Stats SA workers having unrestricted access to their property. The amendment bill, however, seeks to amend this section by removing the qualification of private dwelling, which would then mean that any person employed by Stats SA is allowed to enter private property without permission. You will be forced to be counted regardless of whether you consent or not. The legislation ostensibly retains privacy protections by requiring Stats SA to obtain a warrant to enter your property. But as this warrant is sought in chambers, it disposes of normal court rules and does not provide a person with any opportunity to defend their right to privacy. This is in addition to the bill being so poorly drafted that it creates a loophole where a warrant becomes absolute. In other words, any person under the auspices of the Statistician General now has a right of entry into any premises, including the home of an individual, your home. During clause-by-clause deliberations, the Democratic Alliance raised concerns on the constitutionality of this particular clause, insofar as it directly infringes upon Section 14 of the Constitution or the right to privacy, including the right not to have their person, home, or property searched. Clause 15 contravenes this right, as a person's home can be entered with or without their consent, and that entry may include inspection of the premises. Further, Section 12 of the Constitution relates to security of the person. In this respect, the right to be free from violence from either public or private sources is relevant. While there are vetting processes employed by Statistics South Africa when appointing field workers and other employees, there is no guarantee that these individuals are not capable of violence or criminal behavior. In fact, during the 2011 census, one census worker was accused of sexual assault, while another census worker in the same census was involved in a robbery and violence case when he stole valuables from a house in which he was conducting a survey. In a country riddled with crime, particularly contact crimes such as murder, rape, and gender-based violence, it is inconceivable that owners or occupiers of private residences are not allowed to withhold consent for a stranger to enter their property. By criminalizing the withholding of consent to access a private home, this law puts vulnerable people, including women and children, at risk of potential harm in their own homes for the purposes of data collection. When these objections were raised in our portfolio committee, the responses by the ANC members were shocking, given that they took an oath to defend and protect the Constitution. All ANC members present expressed their support for the amendment of Section 15. But the most telling display of ignorance of the power of our Constitution was when the chairperson of the committee stated that the right to privacy should not infringe on this particular mandate of the state. In other words, government's need for data carries a greater constitutional protection than the right to privacy. This position has been endorsed today by the Deputy Minister. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Section 2 of our Constitution does not have a clause that speaks to the right of government to get information. Instead, it protects individuals from state abuse. And Section 15 of the Statistics Amendment Bill is a very clear example of state abuse. The Democratic Alliance cannot support this bill in its current unconstitutional iteration. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable Manyi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. In the interest of time, the forthcoming EFF government will prioritize two critical areas of concern. Except for these two areas in Tatemurolu, we agree with everything else. Firstly, there's this Clause 9 amendment of the Stats Act, which you correctly articulated that it confers authority upon the Statistician General and designated officers to access any land or premises, inclusive of private dwellings owned by individual state entities, businesses, or other organizations for the purpose of conducting necessary inquiries or observations aligned with the Act's objectives. At the face of this seems plausible, but I'll come back to it. Secondly, there's another amendment that seeks to enhance coordination and collaboration among data producers and users, thereby cultivating an environment conducive to the generation and utilization of high quality stats within South Africa. Again, this sounds sensible, but I'll address it. Let's start by saying, for us as the EFF, we unequivocally support the cooperation with Stats SA and its representatives. However, our foremost priority remains the safety of our citizens. We do not compromise for the safety of our citizens. We do not cut corners. We do not share favors when it comes to the safety of our citizens. It is untenable, Chairperson, that despite reported incidents of individuals masquerading as State SA officials and unlawfully gaining access to premises using State A attire and equipment, that we should enact a legislation oblivious to this reality. How could we? Why is the majority party so numb to the safety of the citizens of this country? Chief Whip of the majority party, Nithi Nina, izihange, mazingene, zisenza amaxhoba azo. This is what you're saying. We argue that it is imperative to question the necessity for State SA to physically enter every household to obtain credible statistics. Why can't everything be done just across the gate to guarantee the safety of the citizens? We've got no problem being counted, but we must be counted without compromising our safety. We advocate for a more discerning approach wherein law enforcement assistance or court warrants are sought when specific premises are flagged for irregularities, such as concealed occupants. So we're not here to hide criminality, but we don't want to be treated like criminals and be exposed to danger, because even some of these State SA officials are not vetted for some of the serious offenses. This approach should be an exception rather than a norm. The proposition that these amendments must be rushed through because of elections will be followed by regulations to address these concerns does not provide any comfort whatsoever, because all of us here ought to know that regulations must be underpinned by enabling legislation. Otherwise, they risk being unlawful. There are no shortcuts in this regard. Towards the end, regarding the proposed amendments containing the database sharing, the EFF urges caution, as unintended consequences could compromise the independence and heart-end credibility of State SA. Presently, when State SA reports on anything, nobody questions it. However, if we approve these amendments as they currently stand, it means that there is a risk that future pronouncements by State SA on unemployment rates, as an example, may be met with skepticism, as data may have been sourced from various other service providers, potentially undermining the veracity of statistics. Why even venture into this abyss? We envisage a truly independent and properly funded State SA, which should in fact be a Chapter 9 institution. We can't be at the mercy of politicians as to when statistics should be released. Let me conclude. We implore this esteemed House, including the outgoing administration, to vigilantly protect the integrity of State SA's pronouncement. Without addressing these concerns, the EFF cannot in good conscience support these otherwise progressive amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Nkosi Kabekulu.
Ngibonge Sihlalo. State SA stands as one of the very few entities that can be considered beacons of light, as they are often the only entity willing to provide the truth regardless of how it makes the government look. From the hard work done by this entity, we can tell the various levels of intervention needed concerning crime and murder. And we are also able to deduct where and how the government has lacked in keeping South Africans, especially women and children, safe. Therefore, we welcome the bill's objective to make a provision for the development and implementation of the national statistics system and national strategy for the development of stats by Statistician General. However, we found that it is worth highlighting one of the concerns raised by the minority views. In the existing Statistics Act, private dwellings are precluded from the absolute right of access. However, the amendment of Clause 9 of Section 15.2 of the Principal Act will provide Statistics South Africa officials with the right to access private property for purposes of data gathering. Perhaps the consideration of this bill before the upcoming election was a bit too rushed. As an amendment like this has the ability to impede on all South Africans' constitutional right to safety and security, especially if the right data gathering tools end up in the wrong hands. Unfortunately, when one considers the high prevalence of crime, this amendment does make one second guess its implementation. Notwithstanding the comments made, the IFP supports the bill.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable Denner.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Chair, legislative amendments are necessary from time to time, especially to ensure that our acts and statutes keep up with changing times and conditions. Statistiek Suid-Afrika is een van die belangrikste departemente in die regering wat akkurate beplanning en begroting betref. Hierdie is 'n departement wat versterk en ondersteun behoort te word met genoegsame hulpbronne en finansiering om seker te maak dat dataopname so korrek as moontlik gedoen word. Ons kan nie bekostig om ons skaars hulpbronne en 'n kwynende staatskas op verkeerde beplanning te mors nie. Daarom word nodige wysigings aan die Statistiekwet verwelkom in soverre dit hierdie doelwit ondersteun. Legislation is also written or amended to address a certain evil, whether it be an inconsistency, a void, an ambiguity, or a question that needs to be addressed. But once legislation is made or amended to force the will of the state upon the citizens of a country without due regard for their basic human rights, as enshrined in the Bill of Rights, we are entering dangerous territory. As we in the opposition benches know and have experienced during the past 5 years of this 6th Parliament and the previous terms leading up to this one, the ANC has no regard for either opposition opinions, views, or contributions, or the input of the people of this country given through public participation processes. If it suits the ANC, they will push it through with their majority in committees and in this house, come hell or high water. And you know I'm telling the truth. And then statements such as, and I quote the Honourable Chair of the committee, although the right to privacy exists, it should not infringe on this particular mandate of the state. Honourable Chair, this statement is very worrying indeed. Agbare voorsitter, as hierdie regering vertroue ingeboesem het, sou hulle nie met hulle hande in hulle hare gesit het weens mense wat al wat van staatsorgaan afkom of afkomstig is met agterdog beheer nie. This of course refers to clause 9 of the Amendment Act, which aims to amend clause 15 of the Principal Act by removing the words other than a private dwelling. In essence, giving any official of Stats SA access to a private dwelling or premises. This contravenes any owner.
One second, Honourable Jane, please. Anyone who will appear not recognize or request the ICT to take him or her out. You may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. This contravenes any owner of a private dwelling or premises right to privacy and, in essence, their right to security of person, especially in a country like South Africa under the ANC. Any act or amendment act made in contravention with the Constitution is invalid and therefore cannot be supported by this Parliament. Indien die ANC meerderheid in hierdie huis ouder gewoonte hierdie ondeurdagte wetswysiging instem en soos gewoonlik oor die stem van rede stoomroller, sal dit bloot verdere bewys wees van hierdie regering se onvermoë om die belange van die mense van hierdie land voorop te stel. Voorsitter, ons moet Suid-Afrika herstel en bou. Ons kan dit nie doen met 'n selfdienende meerderheidsregering van skurke en skelms nie. Ons moet op 29 Mei ons kans aangryp en ontslaa raak van die ANC wat geen agting vir ons basiese menseregte het nie. En die waarheid maak seer, agbare voorsitter, dis baie duidelik, baie duidelik.
Order, honourable members. Thank you, honourable members. I now order, honourable members. Honourable members, I now recognize Honourable UDM, ATM, Good, NFP, Honourable Sheikh Imam,
Thank you,
I
thank you,
now-
Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. The National Freedom Party will support the bill tabled here today. And I think we all know the importance of this particular structure, Statistics South Africa. And in order to address the development of the future in the country, we need to ensure that we have credible data available. In order to have credible data, we need to have credible research team who must be well-resourced and must have all the tools of trade. And we know that time and time again, there's been a question mark over the credibility of the stats that is provided by Statistics South Africa. However, there is no doubt about it that Stats South Africa has repeatedly raised concerns about the limitations that they have, not only with human resource, the tools of trade, but financial resources. And we believe that this bill will go a long way in being able to address some of this, and including, but not limited to, giving Stats South Africa a little bit more power, broadening its terms of reference, and also ensuring that they collaborate with different institutions in order to be able to acquire reliable data. And that in turn, of course, if used, and that's the question I think we need to be asking ourselves, how often and do we really take seriously the statistics or the data that is provided by Stats South Africa, preparing for the future and to deal with the challenges that we face in the country. So as the NFP, we believe that, yes, indeed, this is moving in the right direction, but we call upon government and particularly the National Treasury to ensure that this particular structure, the Stats South Africa, receives all the assistance it can have so that it could provide us with credible data. Thank you very much. We support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Mtapo. Over to you, ma'am.
Ke a leboga motlhomphege modulasetulo, sefepi se segolo sa mokgatlho o bušago le letsogo la gago, maloko a kabinete a leng gona ka mo ntlong le mo mafaratlhatlheng, badudi ka moka ba naga ya rena ya South Africa e botse, thobela. Honorable Chairperson, the development of any society is premised on data which informs the considerations which should be taken in the development of resources and the consideration required to respond to a particular situation or problem. Statistics SA is entrusted with that duty to the nation, and we welcome the effective performance of the entity in executing this mandate. Honorable Chair, we are confident that the entity will continue to provide reliable and quality statistics. Statistical data is critical for persons from various social and economic backgrounds. It also provides general knowledge. Our Constitution places a duty on the state to promote equality and advance social justice. Access to information is a right which requires the promotion of statistical data in all 12 official languages of the Republic. Honorable Chairperson and fellow South Africans, we need to ensure that Stats SA has sufficient capacity and networks to disseminate its findings to ensure increased usage and to respond to the social and economic needs of various social strata. The mediums of distributing statistics are important to ensure access to the data. This requires Stats SA to adequately use digital technology, social media, TV, radio, newspapers to be a source to communicate social and economic statistical reports continually. Statistics are a critical source of data for social and economic development as they provide an assessment of the state of progress or measurements of particular indicators. The recent Census 2022 report is a critical source of statistical indicators, which will provide researchers, research institutions, multilateral institutions, and other users with data which assess the population of the country and the state of various social indicators, which focus on various basic services and areas which impact the human rights of all South Africans. Statistics South Africa has over 200 statistical publications which should be sustained, and more indicators can be published if the institution, my apology, is provided with adequate funding to increase its outputs. Honorable Chair, this can enhance the data available for the public and improve decision-making and knowledge of various aspects. The 2022 census has demonstrated that Stats SA has the agile capability to adapt its system and processes to respond to changing conditions through its digitization transition, which lowered the cost of the census by over R1 billion due to the use of technology, but opposition will remain silent on that. Over the years, Stats SA has been impacted by budget reductions, which have impacted its capacity. Adopting this bill will result in additional functions for the agency, which will require sufficient funding allocation to execute the legislative obligation. Honorable Chair, fellow South Africans, we call on the government to adequately resource Stats SA, for without quality statistics, the allocation of resources in the economy and decision-making in the public and private sectors will be impaired. What the bill also leverages is the duty of state organs to develop the capacity and system to collect and report quality statistics. Indeed, honorable members, we are on a journey to transform our society and the quality of life by improving all critical institutions that enhance the state's effectiveness. Fellow South Africans, it is of concern to us that there are political parties, especially on my left, who do not factor in the social or economic benefits of adopting legislation developed to improve our nation's conditions. They claim that the provision in the bill, which enables field workers to access dwellings, will infringe on the rights of citizens and threaten their security. But measures to mitigate against the risks are in place. Let me refer to Western Cape issue, which the Honorable Chairperson has alluded to. We must remind the House that during the census 2022, in the Western Cape in particular, there was a delay in the collection of statistics as residents refused field workers access, while others chased Stats SA field workers with racist connotations. Therefore, we should ask ourselves whether the country should be disadvantaged from having quality data due to resistant premise on discriminatory conduct and unpatriotic behavior. Badudi ba babotse ba South Africa borwa. Go a makatša ge le kgono mokgatlo wa EFF wo o ipotšago gore o emela badudi. O re lena ba Gomora, o re lena ba Jujuville, o re lena ba Ramaphosa settlement le ba Winnie Park. Le se ke la ba le maphelo a makaone, le se ke la khwetša ditirelo ka gore bili ye e dira gore maphelo a lena e tle e be a makaone. So bagaditšong ba ba rena ba lena bagaditšong ba ba rena ba maphelo a lena a makaone.
Honorable Mtapo, your ear must listen. I've recognized that the point of order. Okay, there's no Honorable Khater.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm rising on 2 points. The issue that the other benches were drowning the speaker. Number two, Mam Kaula has uttered unparliamentary language, violating Rule 84, violating Rule 84 by saying that the speaker on the podium has lied. She said that.
Honorable Makaula, there is a point of honorable members. Allow me, if I may. Thank you. Honorable Kaula, in terms of the rule that Honorable Khatebe have quoted, did you say the honorable member is lying? May you stand up?
Awu kodwa Jehova, ngingevelelwa yini unyaka uphela. Ngike ngashone nothi unamanga.
Mamkhawula.
Ithe ubuwalishano.
Mamkhawula. Oh.
Angaze nje ngisho ukuthi unamanga, angaze.
Order, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable members. Order.
Ngezwe ngadinwa wejehova.
Honorable members. Honorable members.
Ngezwe kushisa umzimba.
Honorable.
Angaze ngisho lonto.
Allow me then to respond to what you said. We appreciate your honesty. Please withdraw. I understand this is suit. Kuyathiwa usibuka kimsuit.
Oh.
Withdraw.
Andikusho ukuthini kuqala ngizothi
unamanga. Ukhuluma amanga. Withdrawal.
Ngiyaxolisa.
Withdrawal.
Bengazi kusho lokho.
Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members. May we proceed, please? Honorable member, you may proceed. Oh, there's another. Khoshi, how go to left far to take so. Honorable member, your hand is up again.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to find out whether it is parliamentary, first and foremost, to start your speech greeting one side and not everybody. That is unconstitutional, it's discrimination.
Thank you.
Secondly, she's drowning us. She mustn't shout.
Thank you, honorable member. You may be seated. Honorable Khoshi, you may proceed. That's not point of order.
Ke a leboga, ge ke gopola ke dumedisitše ka moka. Ke re go badudi ba naga ya South Africa, le ba bone, ga ba iše felo ka lena, ba le nyaka fela, ge ba nyaka gore le dire cross. Ga ba nyake maphelo a lena, e ba a makaone. Ka gore statistics se, dipalopalo tše, di tlo re thuša, di tlo thuša le mmušo wa rena, go leka go dira dipeakanyo. Bjalo go le bjalo, tsebang gore, go sila ga ba, sela moro, le ba tlhokomele, ra e support-a.
Time is up. Time.
Ra e support-a re le African National Congress.
Thank you, honorable members. We shall proceed. I now recognize the AIC. Honorable members, I now recognize the AIC, the COPE, PAC, Al-Jama. I now recognize Honorable Maklua.
Chairperson, statistical fragmentation usually meld down into duplication. This government consists of too many departments focusing on single challenges while other issues are ignored and lead to a complete waste of resources. We have witnessed uncoordinated statistics driven by Stats SA with a government devoid of using such data to change the lives of our citizens. Departments and institutions have conducted statistics in their respective areas, but such data are insincere because it has not been translated into proper planning and service delivery. This will never happen under a DA government. The police minister releases crime statistics every year with shocking results regarding the increase of murder, gender-based violence, and other related crimes. I wonder where is the measures ANC members is talking about. It is a disgrace and shocking that this bill authorized the SG to enter on any land or premises or any individual with even the right to warrant. This infringes on the right enshrined in our constitution. Such power is tantamount to increase of crime in the name of criminals hidden as data collectors and government officials. The DA recognizes the importance and protection of property rights. We respect the rights of privacy. This includes the right not to have their person, home, or property searched, the right to defend any warrant, and the right to deny access. This provision on the amendment bill fuels criminality. Should this bill be approved, the ANC will expose our families, women and children with a potential risk that falls under data collectors. If this government has to be responsive to real population census, it would not suggest that the next population census be completed every 10 years opposed to the 5 years. Stats is a vital tool on budget to provinces. This government lacks anecdotal evidence on real population stats. The undercount rate around 31%, the remoteness of the Northern Cape, Northwest and Free State, and by Stats SA's own admission has led to adjustments that render the results unreliable. If provinces have to receive the equitable share based on population statistics, immigration and migration stats figures over a 5-year lap period will result in failure. The Democratic Alliance object to this bill. People should not vote for the ANC who puts the lives of Tintswalo in danger. Under a DA government, we will use technology and sound methods instead of allowing Stats SA to invade our privacy. Vote for a caring government, a DA government who get things done. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable member. Order, honorable members, I now recognize Honorable Yabo. Over to you, sir. Honorable Tseke.
Greetings, Honorable Chair, House Chair. Let me also extend my greetings to the Chief Whip of the Majority Party. Now, we are dealing with a very scientific subject here, and common sense does not live up to the standard. Common sense does not live up to the standard of science. Honorable Graham seems to say that entering into premises is problematic. Now I ask the question, why would law-abiding citizens refuse government to come into their premises? What are they hiding? What are they hiding? Maybe we'll find out. Once we are finalized with this bill, we'll find out what they are hiding in their backyards. The DA is used to throwing unconfirmed, unsubstantiated, innuendo and accusations. And they like to do so thinking that we will not challenge them on facts. But here, we are going to challenge them. The DA decries privacy, where the state must execute its job. But the same people go and publish details of individuals in records that they recently acquired. It's hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy of the highest level. It tells South Africans must be very careful with that type of hypocritical behavior. Honorable McGlue, as usual, said nothing. The less mentioned about his hot air babbling, the better. Kabedi tabache, terrible langa chonazi. Kisain si hasele sebo. McGlue outright le sebo. The EFF sounds like.
Yabo, may you take a seat?
Oh, no. Armo.
Point of order. Order, honorable members. May we share the point of order, all of us, by listening. Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, if the Honourable Speaker would also, when he speaks.
No, your voice.
When he speaks to our member, also speaks to him as Honourable McGlue. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Yabo, please address members as Miss or Mr. or Honorable.
Thank you very
may
much, Honorable
proceed.
Chair. The EFF sounds like a mascot of illegal cigarette smugglers who don't want government to enter into their premises. Typical ice boy behavior. If you ask me, I don't want to even mention, the Freedom Front Plus, who sound like a DA kept parrot, regurgitating distortions with no shame. Shame on you. Shame on you. The world is changing as innovation spurs technological changes, which alters how we do things and think of things. Statistics South Africa functions in a fast-changing space as information or data is commercialized and data security is constantly threatened. With the changes in artificial intelligence and machine learning, how data is collected, generated, and disseminated is changing rapidly. As digitization grows and citizens have
Honorable
increased
Yabo.
access to
Honorable
connectivity,
Yabo.
they undertake.
Honorable Yabo, just take a seat, Honorable Manyi.
Thank you, Chairperson. I rise in terms of Rule 83. In terms of that rule, a member is not supposed to read things word for word.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Yabo, you may proceed.
Honorable Chair, I did say that science
You
and
may
common
proceed.
sense. I did say. As digitization grows and citizens have increased access to connectivity, they undertake multiple activities on internet-powered platforms. Depending on the statistical products of Stats SA, social data can be extracted through web-based technologies. The Statistics South Africa Amendment Bill provision to expand the scope of Stats SA will enable the Statistician General to develop requirements for the digital market to extract various industry data. We contend that Stats SA should advance an open data sharing system in industries and promote the ownership of data by citizens. This will enrich the data ecosystem and spur innovation. We believe that the experience of Stats SA in conducting the census 2022 through digital devices was the beginning of a future of more possibilities of leveraging technological innovation to increase the products of Stats SA. We highlight this point because for innovation to occur, data needs to be accessible to enable innovators to develop products and services which respond to problems facing our country and its people. Therefore, we need to always understand that data is critical for innovation, and through innovation, we can transform our society and economy. Any position that seeks to weaken data quality or limit data collection weakens our national statistical system, negatively impacting social and economic planning. These technological changes, Honorable House Chair, also require us to develop cybersecurity capabilities as a nation. As fake news and the proliferation of false information are high in digital platforms, deep fakes, the creation of false digital content through the manipulation of voice and visual media through animation and specialized motion graphics have become commonplace with the advancement of artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities. This amendment bill further strengthens the statistics ecosystem by emphasizing the need to comply with the South African Statistical Quality Assessment Framework. It allows for the entities within the National Statistics System to request assistance from Statistics South Africa whenever required. It is important to note that Stats SA intends to play a proactive role in strengthening the national statistics system, and in future, our country will be able to boast having top-tier quality statistics, which will also contribute to attracting investment as data enables investors to analyze various economic and social conditions which are required for their business interests. Research and development will also increase in future, and the quality of data will improve research outcomes. This bill is critical because it places Stats SA on a higher development trajectory and will also impact the production of statistics in government, which will also improve governance. Regarding the proposed new subsection 23, all entities within the National Statistics System are required to timeously ensure that statistics are designated as official by the Statistician General. This, Honorable Chairperson, reflects the intention of the amendment to improve the quality of statistics produced in our country. The ANC supports this bill as part of efforts to strengthen the state, governance, and economy of our country.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Morolong. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Chairperson. You would have thought that the considerations that the the DA is putting before the table are about the safety of citizens of the country. I disagree profusely that they're about the safety of the people of the country. I believe that their consideration about the fact that they do not want to be enumerated by Black people. And this was evidenced during the last census, where the census was purely delayed because some of your members would not want to be counted by Black people. That cannot be allowed. We will not allow ourselves to be distracted from the responsibility of governing this country by criminals and criminal behavior. And if you believe that we should not have access to private dwelling purely because of criminal activities, then you don't understand the burden of leadership of this country. Let's deal with what State SA does to keep data collectors, communities, and respondents safe. Let's teach you what census does. For regular household surveys, State SA has permanent field workforce. For periodic surveys, the field workers are appointed and undergo a vetting process before being appointed. State SA has developed an online field worker verification tool, and a toll-free number can be used for verification of field workers. All field workers carry an ID card, and all the cards used for field work are branded. Publicity is conducted to create awareness on any upcoming survey data collection exercise and to gain access. Gatekeeper level publicity is conducted within representatives of different settlement types, farming unions, farmer representatives, community leaders, traditional leaders, and the police. So the notion of lack of safety is a cop-out and must be treated with the disdain it deserves. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, order. Honorable members, that concludes the debate. Are there any objections to the Statistics Amendment Bill being read for the second time? Honorable DA?
Chair, please note the objection of the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you.
And Chair, the objection of the FF Plus.
Okay, thank you.
And the objection of the ACDP, please, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, those objections shall be recorded accordingly. The bill is agreed to. Now the Secretary will read it for the second time.
Statistics Amendment Bill.
Thank you, honorable members. The bill shall be sent to the National Council of Provinces for concurrency. Thank you, honorable members. Order. Honorable members. Honorable members, you are kindly requested. I think I must use that word very carefully. You are requested to stand and wait for the chair and the maids to leave the chamber. That concludes the business of the day. Thank you. The House is adjourned.
It's busy. You're busy.